Hello, my name is Jane. My background is in museums. I used to work for the Science Museum Group web team. I now run Murray Design with my friend Richard. We make websites and specialise in education, heritage, cultural, and not for profit work. I have to admit, I have a bit of a love hate relationship with collecting. I love stuff, but I also don't like to be burdened by stuff. I'm often buying second hand books or ephemera, scanning images, and then giving them away again. There are only a few collections I've kept: Bulgarian lottery tickets, race numbers, I found these in a neighbour's skip in Bradford, Matchbox labels, and British wrestling posters. They all have something in common: affordability, perhaps a lack of love or appreciation, a distinct design style, and importantly, they are easy on storage. The Matchbox labels in my collection fall into two groups: Eastern Bloc and Japanese. The Japanese ones are wonderful, full of beauty, with great maps, occasionally a little bit suggestive, stunning architecture and patterns, lots of cafes and bars, and sometimes, brilliantly, just a bit out there. But I'm here today to share my collection of mid-century Eastern Bloc Matchbox labels. This is where I pretend to know a bit about the history. There was a time when you wouldn't want to be caught out without a light. Now we are grateful for less smoking and more convenient appliances, but with the decline in matches, we say goodbye to that little bit of ephemeral design tucked away in our pockets or lying patiently on the coffee table. It was during the mid-century when the safety match as we know it came into wide use, a phosphorus-free match that could only ignite against a specially prepared surface. Match factories steadily began to spring up around the world. Those successful ones and the ones that didn't burn down became household names. Early matchbox labels concentrated on instructions for lighting a match. Once we all got the hang of that, the space could be used for less practical matters, sometimes simply decorative to delight and also covered with the maker's name. With so many competing factories, it's no surprise they sought to maximise the use of this inexpensive and ephemeral label. British designers through the decades stayed quite traditional, trustworthy, and often featured the maker's logo. When I first encountered post-war labels from the Eastern Bloc, they seemed to come from another world. As we might expect, images of power and revolution, industry and national pride were numerous, but so too was public service information, such as health and hygiene, money saving, alcohol abuse, and road safety. These messages were dispatched through eye-catching mid-century, bold, contemporary design and bright colours. They are not only a delight for collectors, but leave behind an extraordinary and important social archive. It was over a pint with Neil Whittington from Present and Correct that we decided to make a book. 2 years later, with many lost weekends and evenings, we self-published Matchblock. The book features labels from the 1950s to early 1980s, from Czechoslovakia, Poland, Russia and beyond. Over 400 labels with chapters including animals, food, sport, architecture, the arts, outdoors, transport, household and space. We published 1,000 copies and I'm very happy to say a year later we had sold out. Since publishing Matchblock, I've noticed how much I enjoy a book about collections, specifically similar items repeated with slight differences. I recently wrote a blog post about some of my favourites, and I thought it might be nice to mention them here. Each book features a collection, complemented by beautiful photography, design and layout. Patrick Fry is the master of books about collections. Brick Index celebrates Britain's industrial heritage with 155 photographed bricks, printed at actual size, sorted by colour from light to dark. M1 by Ricky Adam. I can't describe this better than Ricky himself. A travelogue narrated through bodily effluent, a motorway journey described in the call and response of a full bladder, a British road movie, two-lane blacktop and wild at heart, reduced to a trail of piss-filled plastic bottles. Who knew we could be so beautiful? The yellow stitching is the perfect touch. Even though I still have my 1980s cards, I couldn't resist buying the Garbage Pail Kids book by Art Spiegelman. A couple of years ago, I visited the fantastic Estonia National Museum. The museum had a display that explained the distinct areas of Estonia and how the traditional dress had differed. This book by Riit Puri purely concentrates on gloves from the national collection, the regions they come from, and the patterns used. The book I Listen to the Wind That Obliterates My Traces brings together a selection from Steve Roden's collection of vintage photographs related to music, sound, and listening. The images range from professional portraits to ethereal, accidental, and double exposures. Pi Books in Japan started by publishing books for graphic designers and have some wonderful books of ephemera, including Matchbox labels. The Chewing Gums Wrapper paper collection is my favourite of theirs. Thanks for stopping by and listening to my talk, and hopefully see you all one day soon.